Call to order the June 25th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Councilmember Bonzel for our ceremonial opening.
Thank you, Mayor. Whatever brings you today, I want to welcome you to our council meeting. Thank you for joining and wishing you happy 4th in advance. Please, if you could join me in Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to adopt the agenda. There's been a request to amend the agenda to include a presentation of a proclamation celebrating the Carolina Hurricanes Stanley Cup victory. Yay. Is there a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
Motion to adopt. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So we'll move right into recognitions, reports, and presentations. As I said, we added the proclamation, and I'll recognize Councilmember Craig and Councilmember Bella Huang for their presentation.
I just want to say for the record, this is the first time my family has been to a council meeting since I was sworn in 2.5 years ago. Apparently it takes winning a Stanley Cup to get them here. So welcome to everyone that's here tonight. I am Councilmember Michelle Craig, and this is Councilmember Wong. And we just wanted to make sure that we gave recognition to the Hurricanes Stanley Cup win. So last month has been such an exciting time with the Carolina Hurricanes being in the Stanley Cup during the playoffs, and particularly Game 6 on the 14th when they won the Stanley Cup and brought it back to North Carolina after 20 years. We're so excited to have a proclamation tonight to celebrate the Canes' win. It was exciting to be at the parade and see nearly 200,000 fans gathering in Raleigh to celebrate. We know that people were celebrating all over the Triangle, all over North Carolina, across the United States. I even heard from someone who had traveled here from Canada. So definitely a very exciting time. Not only does the Canes playing in and winning the Stanley Cup finals bring our community so much pride, but it was also a major economic driver. having people coming in, watching games, supporting our local businesses, and just a great time. People coming from all over to see what's so wonderful about North Carolina, and even in Cary, which we already knew. And seeing the Canes players at the parade and the coaches and the Stanley Cup, of course, was such an exciting time. But we were so excited to see the junior Canes marching in the parade as well. And so when we were thinking about doing a proclamation, it seemed fitting to invite some coaches and some players to come out. These kids give it their all, many starting out playing in Hurricanes House League, like two of Bella's sons and my youngest son. Bella's sons weren't able to be here tonight, but mine is here, hoping for a chance to make the junior Canes. And there's some other wonderful teams in the Triangle area also. We have a couple of junior Canes coaches and some players with us tonight. For the recognition, if you could come up. And guys, I promise you don't have to say anything. Just come stand over here. We'll give you the proclamation. As they're coming up, I just want to say that it's really a huge, and you can come to stand over here. We'll make sure we get you those pictures that we took earlier. But just wanted to say that traditional calendar Wake County Public Schools is out for the summer. And so I think a whole lot of people we were trying to reach out to after the Canes won and then we did the parade and the rally, people went out of town. So there are so many more players, of course. This is this is multiple teams represented here. And a lot of them are just celebrating in other places right now. So tonight we have with us junior Canes coaches Brian Scully and Mark Hastings. I believe, are you both the 11 and up? One of you is 11 and up, coach is 11 and up, and one is 10 and up, and we have some players from each. We have Connor. You can just raise your hand if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Connor, Eli, and Ryan, I believe, play 11 and up. Thatcher, for the junior Canes, Thatcher plays 10 and up for the junior Canes. And then we brought some Hurricane House League players as well who are aspiring to be junior Canes possibly one day. I just gotta keep working at it. And so we have Henry and Colby, and they chose not to raise their hands, and that's cool. They listened, they did great. So some of us have been fans long enough to remember the feeling of that 2006 Stanley Cup win. And, 20 years is a long time to wait for the cup to come back. So we're so excited that we have these Caniacs here that are going to be these are the next generation of fans. And so they're going to be around, continuing to cheer, waiting for that next win. And who knows, with a lot of hard work, maybe one day they'll be out playing for the Carolina Hurricanes as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Craig. And I would love to shout out to our Mayor Pro Tem Lori Bush and our staff to organize the watch party at our downtown Cary Park. And it's really, really great for us to celebrate in Cary for the Hurricanes win. And now, yeah, we're both there, but we didn't find each other because there are too many people. Now, let's celebrate the Carolina Hurricanes Stanley Cup victory. Whereas the Carolina Hurricanes have brought pride and excitement to Cary, the Triangle, and the entire state of North Carolina through their dedication, resilience, and outstanding achievement in winning the Stanley Cup. And whereas the Carolina Hurricanes have inspired our community to come together, creating opportunities for neighbors, friends, and families to share unforgettable moments, cheer on our hometown team, and celebrate the common bond of being Hurricanes fans. And whereas throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs, Cary residents and visitors proudly showed their support by gathering, displaying their Hurricanes pride, raising their voices in support, and embracing the spirit of camaraderie that makes our community special. And whereas the downtown Cary Park brought the excitement of playoff hockey to the heart of Cary through Cary for the Cup, Carolina Hurricanes watch parties on the Great Lawn, where community members gathered with friends, families, and fellow fans to watch the games live, celebrate the team, and enjoy the thrill of playoff hockey together. And now, therefore, I, Councilmember and Bella Huang, on behalf of the Cary Mayor and Council, do hereby recognize and celebrate the Carolina Hurricanes Stanley Cup victory and encourage all residents to join in honoring this remarkable achievement and the sense of community, pride, and connection it has inspired throughout Cary and beyond.
So I just wanted to, let me get back to this mic. Just wanted to say quickly that we will give, we have 2 proclamations. We will give them to, one to each of the coaches, and to go back and share it with the Junior Canes League. And also, I don't know, I heard there's some connections with the coaches, with Polar Ice House. And so if it makes its way, one of them makes its way there to visit or whatever, it's just really great that the community can see that Cary is so supportive of our youth athletes, and making sure that we're, building this future, and that we're all one in celebrating with the Canes. All right.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Our next agenda item is Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There were 3 opportunities to participate in Public Speaks Out: through written comments, by calling in, or by attending here in person tonight. And if you are here in person and would like to speak, please take a seat in the rows to my right that are highlighted. Public Speaks Out speakers have up to 3 minutes each for their comments and may speak on any town-related topic as long as it's not a public hearing, and that works to your benefit because you get more time at a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. We have a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light. When it turns yellow, that means you have 30 seconds remaining. When it starts flashing red, your time has expired, and that is the point I'll interrupt you, again, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers. I would ask speakers to be respectful in their comments, to direct those comments to the entire council and not to one individual. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding and respecting that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, use props, or do anything else that may distract from this business meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out. And first, I'll call on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We received 8 written comments. These have been emailed to council prior to the meeting, provided to council upon arrival, and attached to the online agenda. We have 7 registered speakers. The first one is Mary Lynn Calls.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Mary Lynn Cause. I live at 15001 Searstone Drive, that wonderful community of Searstone, and my husband and I have lived there for 6.5 years. I am here on behalf of the Searstone Residents Association Council and all 500 Searstone residents, some of whom are here today in the blue shirts. I'm speaking in connection with 24 REZ02, the proposed Searstone PDD amendment. I come with a thank you and an ask. First, the thank you. We want to say thank you to all of you, Mayor, council members, and members of the town staff for the attention you gave to the information we provided at the May 28 public hearing. The questions that you posed showed that you took our information and concerns seriously and sincerely want complete and accurate answers. However, many of us on the Searstone Residents Association Executive Council and our fellow residents were troubled by portions of the applicant's presentation, particularly with their responses to your questions. Their answers did not match the facts as we understand them. Because of that, Dr. Larry Crane, our resident advisor to the Samaritan Housing Foundation Board, along with Jim Pierce, a member of that board and a fellow resident, emailed you a letter with attached documents outlining those concerns and correcting the misstatements. We have provided the clerk with printed copies of those documents for you this evening. So here's the ask, and it's very important to us, and we think it will be to you. We ask the town staff, not only those who deal with planning and zoning, but those who deal with real estate transactions, to carefully review these documents so that you can get a full and accurate view of the situation and how we got to where we are. This really matters to us, and we think it's going to matter to you when you make your final decision. On a more positive note, we look forward to collaborating with you on maintaining the current zoning. This is a special opportunity to have younger but still age-restricted development adjacent to Searstone. This was the idea we supported in 2020.
I have to interrupt you at this point. I'm so sorry.
Thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Pamela Pinckney.
Maybe you didn't get one.
Good evening, everyone. Protocol has been established already, so I won't lose my time by doing such. Is everything okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. Good evening. I want to actually formally introduce myself because I came to North Carolina on a move of faith. I packed in my car and I said, I want to be somewhere clean and safe and just start afresh. I'm Pamela Pinckney, also known as Reverend Pinckney or Apostolate, and I'm running for President of the United States of America for 2028, doing something new. I am the 9th cousin removed to General George Washington, the first inaugurated president of the United States of America, who freed the very first slave in this country. I'm also the daughter of the now late Dr. Betty K. Butts Pinckney, who was the director for the Congressional Office for the now late Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones, who I just buried my mom this year. And my dad is Charles Pinckney, who was the former council president in Warrensville Heights, Ohio. So this politics is in my blood. But I came this evening because when I spoke on last time, the Bible talks about becoming enemies with people for speaking truth. My prayer is that I have not become your enemy for speaking truth. I would like to work with this legislative body of the city and the state, as well as our country, to establish peace, peaceful negotiation in various areas that would promote the peace, as well as adequate housing and protection for people against violence, and bring some things in with some closure. I have experienced both sides of the desk and the fence. I was homeless for 24 years for speaking truth. I lost everything for doing so, but I did not commit a crime, Neither did I prostitute my body, use drugs, alcohol, tobacco, or anything, even the desire to do anything bad. I just wanted to see a system that works better. As I told you before, I have a victim of violence fund, Truth Speaks, for victims of violence, because victims of violence don't have adequate funding and resources. Instead, victims of violence get labels instead of laws. I would like to work with you. I really do appreciate your 311 service. It is very efficient. And the name of the person should have been Paul Webster when I was here last time, not Robert. I met his mom. And I just wanted to just come and introduce myself and see if we can work together on some things. I am a licensed ordained preacher. I just got my honorary doctorate in divinity recently, but I don't want this bridge that exists between religion and politics. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you during the budget hearing. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mary Williams Stover.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today. As a longtime citizen of Cary, I am delighted to see the council review the town's smoke-free ordinance to include vaping and e-cigarettes. I am here to fully endorse and hope that you expand the current ordinance. Tobacco is a cause of death and disease. It is still prominent across the country. It is responsible for the death of many, many young people. My father, in fact, used tobacco. And so I know that you also agree with me when you see that we must do as much as we can in our town to protect our young people and our citizens. My interest here is to ensure that the updated ordinance recognizes and supports cessation resources as well. We know that over half of smokers really want to try to quit and attempt to do so without success. I also want to make sure that cessation information is promoted along with the ordinance, and that enforcement is focused on retailers and not individual users alone. The CDC reports disparities in quitting behaviors persist along certain populations defined by age, race, ethnicity, education, and geography. Spanish language materials are not enough, and additional cultural relevant support is needed. How will the town's expanded ordinance support cessation? Of course, NC Quit Line is one resource. However, I want to make sure that you are using all available resources. I make you aware of the Center for Black Health and Equity and also the resources that are available at the Office of State Health and Tobacco. Again, thank you for your proactive work to protect our citizens and our visitors, and especially our children. We know that vaping targets our youth with flavored products. If you have any questions, you have my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Audit Ohakar.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Town Council. My name is Adit Durhekar. Almost exactly 1 year ago, I stood here advocating for a sidewalk and a crosswalk on Green Level West Road so students could safely walk to Green Level High School. Over 12 months of consistent follow-ups, I've learned a hard reality. Due to several logistical complications, building that entire stretch of sidewalk is unrealistic. But while the sidewalks are stalled, the construction isn't. Massive new development at Green Level West and Green Level Church Road is skyrocketing traffic, making this stretch increasingly dangerous for students. We cannot wait for miles of concrete that may never be poured. We need a realistic, immediate pivot, a crosswalk from the Darlington Woods community entrance to the other side. This crosswalk isn't just paint on asphalt, it is extremely important. This is a simple, high-impact, and cost-effective solution that instantly allows students to safely cross over and utilize this infrastructure. Right now, the daily reality is incredibly annoying. No one likes seeing students forced onto uneven, unpaved grass, risking injury just to get to class. No one likes to see anybody go sit in their cars for just a 10-minute walk. It clogs our roads with school traffic, and in an environmentally friendly, conscious town like Cary, North Carolina, this would further promote this goal. It is bad for our environment, all because of a safe 2-minute crossing not existing. I ask that we build this crosswalk as soon as possible. I've personally spoken with over 150 households across both neighborhoods, as well as town planners and council members. The community wants change. We cannot afford another school year of gridlock, and I am personally willing to do whatever it takes to work alongside town staff to make this move as fast as possible. To show how minute of a change I ask for, I have provided 11 copies of a map illustrating this exact location. If you look at the maps in front of you, the long stretch highlighted in red represents the original proposal. This is proved to be logistically unreasonable for now, but I want to explicitly shift our focus to the section highlighted in purple. This marker represents the crosswalk from the Darlington Woods community to the other side, and that single purple line is our realistic pivot. Make no mistake, however, my long-term vision has not changed. I fully intend to push to go beyond a crosswalk in the future to secure the complete pedestrian infrastructure our community deserves. But we cannot do that when student safety is on the line today, not later. Right now, we must do the absolute most we can as soon as humanly possible. Look at the maps. Since the full sidewalks are unrealistic today, let's at least give these kids a safe place to cross right now. I humbly ask you to approve the sidewalk, protect our students, and finally protect our community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Masib Shahar.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for taking the time to consider the tobacco-free ordinance and for the work you do for the town of Cary. My name is Mansib Shotcho. I'm a junior at Green Hope High School, and I'm here tonight representing the Poe Youth Empowerment Team, which includes youth across Wake County, including many of us who live right here in Cary. I want to start by saying that what I'm about to talk about isn't a problem happening somewhere else. I'm a Cary resident. I go to a Cary high school. What I'm about to describe didn't happen in another town that we're reading about. It happened on my bus, in my school, and in this community. On my school bus, there was a student who openly sold vapes to other kids. It wasn't hidden or secretive. People knew who to go to, how much it cost, and when to ask. It was talked about casually, almost like trading snacks or candy. What struck me most was how normal it felt for so many students. There wasn't any shock or hesitation. It blended into the background of everyday life on a bus full of Cary kids on their way to a Cary school. It doesn't stop at the bus. At my school, we've had recurring fire alarms triggered by vaping in the bathrooms. Every time that happens, the building empties out and class stops, not just for the students involved. It's a disruption to education that repeats itself, and it's a direct result of how easy it is for students to get their hands on these products in the first place. If access were harder for these products, and these products weren't so visible and normalized, I don't believe we'd be pulling fire alarms over vape smoke as often as we are now. According to the CDC, over 2 million middle and high school students in the United States currently use e-cigarettes. Before I saw what was happening in my school, this seemed like an abstract statistic. Now it doesn't. As a teenager, you're not always thinking about long-term consequences. You're thinking about fitting in, curiosity, and what feels socially acceptable. When tobacco and vaping are visible and common in public spaces, it lowers the barrier for experimentation. It quietly sends the message that this is just a part of growing up in Cary. Most people who use nicotine start before the age of 18, often much earlier. That's why the environments that youth grow up in matter so much. The signals we absorb from our surroundings shape our choices long before we fully understand the risks. Every public space where vaping is visible teaches kids that it's normal. Every space where it isn't teaches them the opposite. This ordinance lets Cary choose which lesson we're teaching the next generation. Raleigh saw the same patterns and recently passed a comprehensive smoke-free, tobacco-free ordinance for their public spaces. Cary now has that same opportunity to decide what kind of environment we want our young people to grow up in, and to back that up with real policy. When you vote on this ordinance, I hope you think about the students like me who see those effects early and shape the environment Cary's youth grow up in and the standards that we internalize. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and for considering the voices of the youth who live with the outcome of this vote.
Thank you.
Our next registered speaker is Saad Khan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today in support of the tobacco-free ordinance. My name is Saad Khan. I'm a rising junior at Green Hope High and a proud resident of Cary. Today I'll be speaking on behalf of the Poe Youth Empowerment Team. As a student, I've seen firsthand how vaping has become a growing issue among teens. Over the past few years, I've noticed more students talking about vaping, and in some cases using these products at school events, parks, and other public spaces. What concerns me most is that many young people do not fully understand the risks. Nicotine is a highly addictive chemical found in tobacco and vape products and can have serious effects on adolescent brain development, learning, and mental health. I've also seen how peer pressure can influence these decisions. A student may start vaping simply because friends are doing it, which causes them to want to fit in, or because of the misconception that this product is just harmless. What starts off as curiosity can quickly become a habit that is difficult to break, which is known as the cycle of addiction. This is why tobacco-free public space matters. Children should be able to play at parks without being exposed to secondhand smoke or vaping aerosols. Families should be able to attend community events, walk along greenways, and enjoy outdoor spaces, knowing that they can breathe the clean, fresh air. Tobacco-free spaces help create healthier environments for everyone, especially our youth. Recently, Raleigh took an important initiative step in protecting the youth and citizens by passing a tobacco-free ordinance. As a resident of Cary, I hope our town can follow this example and continue building a healthier future for all. This ordinance is not about restricting personal choices. It is about protecting public health, reducing youth exposure to tobacco products, and ensuring that our shared spaces remain clean, safe, and welcoming. Cary has always been a community that values safety, health, and quality of life. In fact, in 2025, Cary was ranked the 6th safest city in the nation, making it the only city in North Carolina to be included in the top 10. That recognition reflects our commitment to protecting residents and create a community where families can thrive. By supporting tobacco-free spaces, I respectfully encourage you all to support this ordinance and would reflect choosing cleaner air and healthier lives. As a young person who will help shape the future of this town, I hope you will join me in making this choice. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Our last registered speaker is Roshan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Roshan, and I'm a rising junior at Panther Creek High School, as well as a resident of Cary and a member of the Poe Youth Empowerment Team. I'm here today to advocate for a tobacco-free ordinance for the town of Cary. I will tell you all a story that I experienced personally, and I have no doubt that many other students also experienced this across the town. On the very first day of my freshman year of high school, I walked into the school bathroom and immediately saw a cloud of vape smoke. I turned around and walked right back out. But that's the thing, I had a choice to walk out. Not everybody does. Every student must go to the bathroom at some point throughout the school day. When vaping is happening in bathrooms, students aren't choosing to be exposed to it. They're forced into that environment again and again, sometimes every day. And that repeated exposure is not just dangerous physically due to the secondhand aerosol, it's also dangerous psychologically, and this is something that I experienced firsthand. For many students, the first time seeing this can make you uncomfortable, maybe even scared. But after repeated exposure, you become desensitized to it, and it maybe even becomes normal to you. And that's the danger of vaping in public places that students frequently visit. The moment something becomes normal in a young person's mind, it becomes significantly easier for them to start doing it themselves. To put this in perspective, if a young person starts vaping, they're more likely to become addicted due to their brain still developing, and they could be the reason it's normalized for somebody else, continuing the cycle. Although there is signage across the school clearly prohibiting the use of tobacco products on school grounds, students continue to use these products, highlighting the widespread addiction. The problem is so prevalent in some places that the bathrooms are overpopulated purely due to the number of students vaping, taking away from students who generally just want to go to the bathroom. A tobacco-free ordinance is crucial to breaking the cycle. It removes vaping from the places that young people can't avoid, stopping the normalization before it starts. I was lucky that first day being able to walk out, but I couldn't avoid it forever. If we want young people to make healthy choices, we have to make spaces where healthy choices feel normal. And that's why I believe passing a tobacco-free ordinance in Cary is a big step towards creating a healthier future for me and my peers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No additional registered speakers.
If you're in the audience and would like to speak at Public Speaks Out, now is your opportunity.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Haas, and I just want to say that I'm very thankful to live in Cary and in the United States of America, the greatest country in human history, and about to celebrate its 250th birthday next week. There are a lot of people that obviously have different beliefs or opinions than myself, and they are often shared here and Public Speaks Out. And they're often very critical of certain government actions and a particular law enforcement agency in particular. So I would like to actually help reach out to those that are affected by certain law enforcement agencies by trying to offer solutions, immediate solutions. I'd like to address the widespread panic amongst our undocumented migrant population. Foreign-born people across the country are looking for ways to avoid being apprehended and deported. To assist them, here are 10 helpful tips for migrants looking to avoid ICE. Tip number 1, go back to your own country. Simple but effective. Tip number 2, obey immigration laws. Studies show that the best way to avoid being charged with a crime is to not to do anything to break the law. Tip number 3, take off your sombrero. You'll be less identifiable and blend in with every other Juan, Ricardo, and Geraldo. Number 4, resist the urge to lead an armed gang and forcibly take over an apartment complex. It may be difficult, but your willpower will pay off. Number 5, please don't rape anyone. American society tends to view this behavior as no bueno. Number 6, learn English. Making a convincing case to governing authorities is much easier when you actually speak a language they understand. Number 7, try cutting back on less than 1 murder per week. ICE is targeting violent criminals first, so go easy on the murdering. Number 8, get your MS-13 face tattoo, gang tattoo removed. I understand that laser removal can be pricey, but it will help you be less conspicuous. Number 9, ask Selena Gomez to hide you in one of her mansions. She has several, and based on her social media posts, she'd definitely do something to help. And finally, number 10, find the perfect hiding place like Venezuela. ICE will never look for you there. Following these tips are a surefire way to avoid capture and deportation. Thank you, and good evening.
Anyone else for Public Speaks Out?
Hi there, my name is Diana. Very good to see everyone tonight. I wanted to acknowledge the
Diana, could you let go of the mic? Thank you.
That is a habit I have. Thank you for the reminder.
Sure.
I wanted to acknowledge the young folks here tonight because I have been so impressed. I really have with the tobacco-free ordinance. And I think it's a wonderful idea. I actually work in healthcare, so vaping is very concerning to a lot of us in healthcare. We're just beginning to really understand the long-term consequences. I mean, we're talking about very hot steam that folks are inhaling and damaging their lungs with. It's a different beast entirely than cigarettes. So I am very in support of an ordinance. And I think there also needs to be more of a big picture view on additional steps, because I have seen spaces that have tobacco-free ordinances and people still smoke, right? So we can have the ordinance in place, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll stop folks from using tobacco products. So are there ways that we need to reach out to young people? Do they need alternative coping mechanisms to deal with school stress? Do we need some sort of youth program to engage students? Maybe they're needing additional support, right? And sometimes that can manifest in addictive behaviors. So that's just one thought, and something I'm happy to continue the discussion with you all and also with our young folks over here. I love to see that this is on the table and that the youth are so involved. And I do hope you all will consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, I'll close Public Speaks Out. We'll move to item 4, which is the consent agenda. For the benefit of people watching our meeting on TV, I'll take a moment to review the consent items. Actually, there's only one consent item, and that is the Pittard-Sears Road Annexation 26A04. Would council members like this item pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that apply for Public Speaks Out, with one exception. Public hearing speakers have 5 minutes each for their comments. Our first public hearing is 23 REZ 14, Hatcher Property Rezoning. Principal Planner Rachel Smith will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this rezoning tonight. It will be referred to the Planning and Zoning Board. They will make a recommendation, and it will return to council at a future date. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a rezoning for an assemblage of approximately 23.15 acres in western Cary. One parcel is unaddressed, and the others are addressed 74 and 80 Saunders Grove Lane. The property is located within Cary's corporate limits and is in the Carpenter Special Planning Area, shown in red, and adjacent to the Carpenter National Register Historic District, shown in blue. There are no documented historic buildings on the site. The surrounding neighborhoods include Old Carpenter, Carpenter Village, and Magnolia Estates. The site's eastern property boundary abuts a stream and a pond. The pond is owned and maintained by the Magnolia Estates HOA. A 100-foot buffer comprised of the 50-foot Noose buffer and the additional 50-foot Cary Urban Transition buffer will be required on the property's eastern boundary. The Carpenter Special Planning Area map shows the conceptual alignment of several planned greenways, including the Village Trail, a character-defining feature of the Special Planning Area and a unique element within Cary's planning framework. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources System Plan further refines the locations of these proposed trails, and the applicant has committed to build the Village Trail along the western edge of the property and to build the portions of the Kit Creek Greenway corridor which run along the boundary of the site. The site is south of Saunders Grove Lane and north of April Bloom Lane. Braybrook Way stubs just to the east of the property. The current zoning is Cary Residential 40, and the applicant requests rezoning to Residential 8 conditional use, The proposed zoning conditions limit the development to a maximum of 52 detached dwellings and include a concept plan that illustrates the overall layout and key zoning commitments. The R8 zoning requires a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet, and the applicant is committing that at least 40% of all lots will be a minimum of 10,000 square feet and will be located in the yellow pod areas as shown on the concept plan. Community gathering area will be a minimum of 7,000 square feet, 2,000 square feet more than the LDO requirement. Most perimeter buffers, which would otherwise be permitted on residential lots, will be on common lots, and the applicant has offered architectural commitments. Non-traditional exterior building materials are prohibited, including vinyl siding, EIFS, and plastic composite lumber products. And corner lot homes must incorporate additional architectural details and foundation plantings on side lot facades. Homes located within 100 feet of the Village Trail or Saunders Grove Lane, both important viewshed corridors leading into the historic Carpenter Crossroads area, must incorporate at least 2 traditional architectural design elements from an approved list, such as gable roofs or front porches. These commitments help ensure that the homes most visible from these key corridors incorporate design features that complement the character of the historic Crossroads area and reinforce the unique identity of Carpenter. The conditions also include multimodal commitments. A transit easement will be dedicated along the Saunders Grove frontage, and there will be a raised pedestrian crossing on April Bloom Lane. Additionally, the developer will construct the greenways, multi-use paths, and the Village Trail as shown on the concept plan. As they are shown adjacent to streets, we note the 12-foot wide multi-use paths are generally interchangeable with street side trails. The Village Trail will be located along the western edge of the site as a 12-foot wide, meandering, ADA accessible trail located within a 60-foot wide corridor. Consistent with the Carpenter Special Planning Area vision, the trail will incorporate context-sensitive materials and design elements intended to evoke the area's historic character. The applicant is also committed to providing at least 2 interpretive signs that tell the story of Carpenter's history, subject to review and approval by historic preservation staff. Subject to securing necessary easements, the applicant has offered to extend Braybrook Way beyond the subject property to connect with the existing street network. The missing segment is relatively short, approximately 60 to 65 feet in length, and is located within existing public right-of-way. However, as written, there is some uncertainty regarding implementation because the connection may require easements from adjacent property owners that have not yet been secured. The offer does not include removal of the existing Braybrook Way turnaround bulb upon street connection. Staff has evaluated the request with the Imagine Cary Community Plan. We note the Carpenter Special Planning Area has one of the most detailed and place-specific planning frameworks within the community plan. The subject property is located within 2 Carpenter sub-areas. The Crossroads Village sub-area is envisioned as the historic heart of Carpenter, where development should be particularly sensitive to the area's historic character and rural setting. And the neighborhood south sub-area is intended to consist of detached residential neighborhoods similar in scale and character to the established subdivisions. The Village Trail is envisioned to provide place-defining connectivity and transition between the Crossroads Village and the neighborhood south sub-area. When looking at the policy guidance of the special planning area, the proposal includes architectural commitments specifically designed to complement the character of the National Register Historic District, including restrictions on exterior building materials and enhanced design standards. Use-informed transitions, which are also discussed in the shape chapter analysis, include a development program similar to the surrounding neighborhoods, and the proposal would build the very first portion of the Village Trail through the site to help connect new residents and existing neighborhoods with community destinations. The architectural commitments also help to meet historic preservation master plan goals, as does the offer for historic interpretive signage to share the history of Carpenter. For the Live and Shape chapters, the proposal creates a detached dwelling residential neighborhood that adds to the housing supply in Western Cary while remaining generally compatible with the surrounding area. Transitions are provided through the use of 10,000 square foot lots, 2,000 square feet larger than the minimum required in the R8 district, primarily located around the periphery of the development, as well as an overall density of 2.25 dwellings per acre, which is compatible to nearby neighborhoods. For the Enriched chapter, the proposed 7,000 square foot community gathering area may contribute to open space preservation, and the gathering area also supports broader Live and Shape chapter objectives by enhancing neighborhood design, community interaction, and overall development quality. For the Engage and Move chapters, the proposal includes several multimodal improvements that would enhance safety and connectivity, both within the development and to the surrounding area. The dedication of a transit easement also helps support future transit service as the area continues to develop. If construction can be more fully assured, as discussed in the staff report, the proposed Braybrook Way extension would eliminate a gap in the transportation network. The staff report also notes the benefits to removing temporary turnarounds when streets are extended, and several recent rezonings and development projects have been removed by the developer. If the bulb is not removed by the developer during the street connection, the redundant pavement is likely to remain as is until the neighborhood or the town pay to remove it. A neighborhood meeting was held in October of 2023. 25 nearby residents participated. Questions and concerns related to traffic, privacy, buffers, community character, the location and design of stormwater facilities, greenway and trail connections, tree preservation, and the future layout and architecture of the development. The applicant voluntarily held 2 additional neighborhood meetings to meet with neighbors and keep them updated on the case as conditions were refined, including 1 meeting held earlier this month. The minutes from all 3 neighborhood meetings were attached to the staff report. While there has been consistent contact with neighbors since 2023, staff has not received any direct communication since the posting of the public hearing signs and the mailing of notice for the public hearing. Staff provided notice to property owners within 800 feet, which exceeds state and LDO requirements for notice, and signs were posted on the property. This concludes my presentation. Jason Barron, the applicant's representative, is available to provide his comments, and following the public hearing, I'm available to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. I would invite Mr. Barron forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group here on behalf of the applicant and MI Homes, who's the proposed builder of the site. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'll try to keep my comments brief. I mean, candidly, I believe this case is pretty much a slam dunk. This is one of those cases that I enjoy working on, and credit honestly to my client and the thorough work that the staff has put in on this case and ensuring that the case that is presented before you tonight fits squarely with the community that's going to be located from a fit standpoint. It's going to have tie-ins to those adjacent communities, and so at the forefront of the discussions that we've had with the neighborhood is making sure that whatever gets developed there is going to be complementary to what is already there. Additionally, ensuring that it's going to be consistent with the Carpenter Special Planning Area. As Rachel mentioned during her presentation, the good news is the Carpenter Special Planning Area has very site-specific details associated with the plans for development of this site, and we're complying with all of those. And so we believe this is one of those cases that quite literally checks all of the boxes from a comprehensive plan consistency. And the reason we know that it does is because the applicant took it upon themselves to do 2 things in this case. First, it's a concept plan rezoning. So we have the benefit of a concept plan that shows what the layout is going to be, where the 10,000 square foot lots are going to be, where the 8,000 square foot lots are going to be, how the sidewalks are going to connect within the community as well as around the community, where the transit location is going to be located, where the buffers are going to be located. It provides predictability so the community knows this is what we're going to get. Additionally, the conditions are incredibly thorough. I mean, this is a fairly small development. This is 52 lots. It's not a ton of development on this site. It's just 23 acres. But even with that, my client, in close consultation with the staff, we believe has put together a very thorough list that provides, as I said, predictability and complementary uses with what is there on the ground. I do want to mention, and if I could go back to I think there's a concept plan somewhere in here, if not. So this is the concept plan, and I want to highlight the trails. Again, this is a 23-acre site. If you take a look at the site, you have, as was mentioned, there's 3 different trails that encircle this site, all of which are 12 feet wide. So you have a traditional greenway that essentially picks up at the northern portion of the site and lines the entire northern and eastern section of the site and winds its way down to the southern portion of the site. You have a street side trail, 12 feet wide, that lines April Bloom. The entire southern boundary of the site has a 12-foot trail. And then, as Rachel mentioned, there's a 12-foot trail, the Village Trail, the first of its kind. Town hasn't seen one of these. It's the only place that it exists. There's a 12-foot trail that lines the entire western boundary of this site. So all told, there's in excess of 3,000 linear feet of 12 feet wide trails that completely encircle this development. It will provide great opportunities not only for these residents, but for the people who already live in this area to get out, to be able to bike, to be able to walk and move around. And so, it really is one of those unique opportunities to be able to work with the staff. As was mentioned, this is the first of its kind from the Village Trail standpoint. Has been a fun conversation with the staff. Candidly, when we received the first comment, we asked staff, what do you want us to do? They said, we don't know. What do you want to do? I mean, not literally, but honestly, it's the first of its kind. We don't know exactly what it's going to be. And I think if you read the condition, that condition contemplates continued collaboration with the staff associated with how that Village Trail on that 60-foot wide section, 60-foot wide section of greenway with a 12-foot trail in the middle that's going to be winding through. So I can't say enough good things about the work that everybody has put in on this case, and we look forward to hearing your feedback and continuing through the process. Thank you.
Thank you. So now is the time for the public hearing for 23 REZ 14 Hatcher property rezoning. I'll call on our clerk for any written comments and to call on any registered speakers.
We had 5 written comments, no registered speakers. The written comments have been emailed to council prior to the meeting, provided to council upon arrival, and attached to the online agenda.
Thank you. If you are here in the audience and would like to speak at this public hearing, now is your opportunity.
My name is Mac Patel. I live in west part of Cary. First of all, thanks Mayor and Council member and the staff member for this opportunity to speak on this project. I own a small parcel which is on the northwest corner of this property, like we have a common property line. And basically on the northwest side and western side of this property, there are smaller parcels. They all do not have a city sewer and water. So it would be nice if they can give us a couple stub which we can accommodate for our small single home parcels. My address for that property is 54 Saunders Grove Lane. And otherwise, this is a very good project for 52 homes in a 23 acre. That's, I think, pretty good. I would like to see that developed. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else for this public hearing?
Mayor and council members, thank you for having us here. I'm Mike Allen. I live in Magnolia Estates, which is part of the proposed, or next to the proposed area. Overall, we're very pleased with the proposed plan for this Hatcher property. This was the 3rd iteration. There were 2 previous proposals that came through that we wanted to put at least 100 to 120 townhomes on the area back there that is now designated for 52 single-family homes. So we're very pleased with that. The plan seems solid. For the most part, everybody that I know in the neighborhood is happy with it, with one exception. And that is it's been mentioned several times, the Braybrook extension. You know, right now, we have one road going into Magnolia Estates. A lot of times you hear that you need the extension because of emergency vehicle access and things like that. Well, we've had our share of fire trucks, we've had our share of ambulances and police in the neighborhood. It's never been a problem. In fact, access into Magnolia Estates through Morrisville Carpenter and Lewis Stephen is on a 4-lane highway. If you extend Braybrook into the new development area, this is a very tiny, narrow neighborhood there. And it not only makes it, to me, it would seem more difficult and less safer to go through there to get to this neighborhood here if you extend Braybrook. Right now, there's 4, if you look at it, there's 4 proposed access into the new neighborhood. We've got 1, and we're a slightly bigger area than this. 1 has been sufficient for us for a long time. 4, I think, is probably a little bit more than is necessary. If you leave Braybrook, the turnaround that's in there now, and actually do the new proposed that is proposed to connect to Braybrook, make that a turnaround, that still gives you 3 roads access, and it doesn't have emergency vehicles zigzagging through the new development to get into Magnolia Estates, should they decide to take that area. So basically what I'm trying to say is, please take a look at, evaluating the need to extend the Braybrook into the new development area, because it's just going to it's going to set back the quality of life in our neighborhood, and it's really, in my opinion, not necessary to do that. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for this public hearing? Anyone at all?
Hello, Diana here again, and I think I'm finally getting the hang of this microphone. So thank you, Mayor Weinbrecht, for all your friendly reminders. So there's a lot of work that has been done by the applicants. I can see that. I just wanted to kindly ask for a little bit more attention to detail regarding the buffers, just because I have seen a lot of neighborhoods go up in this area, and builders sometimes have a tendency of choosing vegetation that just takes a really, really long time to grow, right? So the species selection of trees matters here, because the construction can take place over a year, and we've got tiny little trees that are going to take years and years to catch up. But not all trees are the same. Not all vegetation is the same. Some do grow faster. For example, red oaks, 15 to 18 feet within 2 years. So I think with a little bit more of attention to detail regarding that buffer would be wonderful. As I mentioned, I've seen it happen with other builders where they just plant these little twigs in the ground. They're choosing like the smallest, cheapest trees possible, I think, that they can get. And it just takes years and years to really see the benefit of any vegetation. I very much appreciate that the builders are going to be revegetating the east side of the property. That's something that they've talked about. I just want to encourage that there be a little bit more planning in terms of the timeline of how long it takes to get the benefit of vegetation and revegetation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public hearing? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Thanks to those who spoke. Just want to remind you that this will next go to the Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation, and it will come back to council for a vote in a few months. Having said that, I'll open it up to council members for questions or comments.
Sure. This is in District A. I'm happy to begin. I'd like to thank the applicant for meeting with me in Town Hall and with town staff earlier this week to talk about the proposal. And it is a pleasure to see communication between residents and applicants in the development community, resulting in a proposal that is this mindful of what is appropriate for the area, mindful of resident feedback. As our resident shared, this is now the third iteration of what could have been built here, and I think this goes to show what happens when you have that collaboration, and I think we've landed somewhere that feels very appropriate for the area. I thank the residents for helping to shape that process. The concern that I shared with the applicant when I met with them, as I share with most applicants I meet with, is canopy preservation. So this parcel does not have a lot of mature canopy, a little bit in the southeast corner, and we talked about retaining as much as we could throughout the greenway on the eastern edge and in the wetland retention area. Rachel, to address the resident concerns about the connectivity, could we talk about that just a little bit? That connectivity there is required by our ordinance?
So because the site is over 5 acres, it will have to stub to the eastern site and it will align with Braybrook. Now, you can see that this is an off-site gap here off of their property. So it's that 60 to 65 feet that the applicant is offering to build off of their property to make the connection. Connectivity is required for us, but if the applicant does not offer to build this, then at some point, perhaps Cary might be the ones who have to pay for it.
And so could you help a newer council member also understand the interaction here between our connectivity requirements and our stream buffer protections? Because does this in fact connect through the stream buffer? That's what it looked like from the original, from maybe the first slide we had.
This is not in the same location. You can see this is, okay. This might be helpful. So this gap is on this spot right here. You've got homes already in here. So the stream buffer is to the east of this area.
Could you go back to the first slide? Oh, well, it's here tiny, but maybe the first slide where the concept
How about
plan.
this one?
Yes.
Is this better?
Yes. So.
This, you're talking about this crossing? Yes, so there'd have to be a culvert of some kind.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand with our stream buffer protections, but our connectivity requirements, how we reconcile the two.
I'll add, it would be reviewed during development plan review for buffers and whether or not a crossing could be made.
Okay.
Do you mind if I?
Yeah, please.
Tack on to this? Was there not a requirement when the previous development was created to go all the way to the line? Why did Braybrook stop before the property line?
We'd probably have to research that because development's sometime old.
So is Braybrook, it's a town-owned road?
Yes.
And it's up to current public standards?
I believe so.
The right-of-way is standard and does extend all the way to the property line.
The right-of-way does, but the road doesn't.
The road stops short, correct?
Okay, so there's no requirement, that's what I'm trying to understand. Is there no requirement for, let's forget about what was supposed to happen. Today, would there be a requirement for it to go to the property line?
Not necessarily, and I'm thinking in this situation, it could be if there were stream impacts at that western end of the road. Sometimes the federal regulatory agencies will not let you build a road through that that's not already connecting to something.
Okay.
So they may have been there are situations where people are forced to stop construction short of the property line for reasons like that.
I thought that might be where you were going.
And topography reasons, if they couldn't fill it and had to go off-site to get the fill to make the road connect.
Okay, but so they weren't required some sort of payment in lieu so that eventually when that road was going to be constructed, it didn't have to come from taxpayer dollars?
We'd have to look.
I'm just thinking for the future. I know we can't go backwards, but it's some questions to ask as we look at new developments, especially infill ones where that requirement either has to be, let's say, this wonderful developer who's offered to build it, although culverts are more expensive than a road, or if in the future we say, hey, you don't have to build the road, but you have to give us some money for the road.
Yeah, I believe, and I'm looking at Cassie and Priatham in the audience, I believe we do that today with current development, so that we've.
Okay, great. Just wanted to check.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for some clarification. So I don't really have much more to add. Again, just my appreciation to the residents for helping to shape this for the better, my appreciation to the applicant for being so responsive. This is now the second meeting in a row that we're considering this special plan area, and I think this application was very responsive to the intentions of that special plan area. And I think the attention to detail for historical character, for the green spaces, for the village trail, adds a lot of great amenities in this area.
Any other comments?
I have some questions.
Me too.
Okay.
Go ahead. You're already on a roll.
No, you.
Okay, well, I just want, and this is not a challenge to this. This is quite literally me learning and trying to understand, but this is the first time I've seen an applicant come with a promise of pods having a specific lot size, and showing it to me in this manner. So those center pods being 10,000 square feet, right? Or I'm sorry, the outer pods being 10,000 square feet and the other inner ones being a little bit smaller. I'm curious what is trying to be achieved by those lot sizes being what they are, where they are.
Sure, and let me pull up the concept plan.
I'm making an assumption that it's a transition.
Correct. So the idea was to have the larger lots as a transition buffer because this is an infill site to the adjacent neighborhoods that are existing. So here you can see Magnolia Estates. The lot sizes are usually around 10,000 square feet. Up in here, a couple of these corner lots, cul-de-sac lots are a little bigger, up to 15,000 square feet. Carpenter Village does have smaller lots generally, and then Old Carpenter here. And I just pulled the plats immediately adjacent to this property. So the idea was to have a similar feel to these adjacent lots and neighborhoods.
What is the setbacks for this zoning? I'm asking because geometry is the only math I was ever good at. And if those larger lots have larger homes, I don't think they're going to achieve quite the transition feel. If the lot is, I've got a very, very large house next door to me on a lot that's just a little bit smaller than mine, and it feels very, very close. If there was a little bit more open space, of course, we've got 5-foot setbacks. So that's kind of what's in my head is that geometry. How does that geometry really work?
Sure. So the staff report does have the setbacks for the proposed R8 zone. So the roadway setback, because these are all local streets, is going to be a 20-foot front. The rear is 20, and then the side yard is a 5-foot minimum with a 20-foot combined. I will say that on my site visit that these are some very beautiful large homes. We don't have a lot coverage or a area ratio in the LDO for these lots, and so those large, lovely homes on some of the 7,500 square foot lots, there is quite a bit of lot coverage existing, to your point.
I was just curious. I don't have any problem with it. I was just trying to understand what was trying to be achieved, and I got to admit, I find it an interesting way to go about transitions. It's just not something I've seen another applicant. I don't know if anybody else has seen this before.
In the past, we've seen it a lot.
It feels like a clever way to approach the transition without planning more stuff necessarily than is necessary, right?
It protects the abutting neighbors who are concerned about houses looking very similar to houses by them.
And then it would create, I feel like it would create a lot of harmony with the surrounding.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that was this is very new to me, and I find it very interesting. And then I'm curious, 54 Saunders Lane, the gentleman mentioned perhaps us, I guess, stubbing it, but with utilities? Is this an undeveloped parcel? Is that the goal? So there's currently, it's just I'm assuming just a empty nothing.
There's a
nothing in
single
lot.
family home on the property now, and so the applicant will be required to extend utilities, and typically they do stub to adjoining properties. Now they can absolutely work with the gentleman offline together to try and
So
work out.
But if there's an existing property there, does it need to be annexed, or?
This is in the corporate boundary, so no, there's no annexation associated with
Okay,
that.
so it just happens to be on, I'm assuming, well and septic? Okay, thank you, those are my only questions.
I have two questions. The first one is the area that's marked wetland. What can you tell me about that? It's not in yellow, it's in white on the map that's up now on the bottom.
Sure. So a lot of these features will be field determined at the time of development plan. So there has been enough engineering to know that that is a location of a wetland, and so they wanted to indicate that it was not going to be part of the development scheme at this point.
Okay, but it's part of the rezoning, but not part of the concept plan for development.
There's no anticipated development pod there.
And then is there a BMP that's required somewhere on the site?
So there will be stormwater facilities. I don't have a lot of information on them at this point in terms of the engineering. Certainly there will be stormwater facilities.
What's a BMP?
Best management practice? So where then is, sorry, it's very small, where is the community gathering space?
It'll have to be centrally located per the LDO. It has not been identified in this concept plan, the exact locations.
Just from a past experience, it would be great if the BMP could be seen as an amenity, and if the amenity could be part of the community gathering space. Mr. Barron knows how much we in town council love amenity, make a good BMP amenity with a fountain and all of that. That would be awesome. I'd love to know where that is. I know that our goals are always to have a community gathering space that's centrally located, but I think it would be, I've often seen them on the plan. This is the first plan I've seen in a while that didn't have a location identified, identified. 7,000 square foot is great. I just wanted to know that. And do we know what a historic interpretive signage is?
It will be along the village trail. As written right now, it would be in the easement for the trail. Staff is sort of noodling internally on if that is the best location for it to be. It may be more appropriate in other places along the village trail, so we're working with the applicant on the exact location and placement. That will ultimately be a development plan decision.
I think it might be great if the historic preservation folks could be part of that discussion. I know that they would always love to be part of anything that celebrates the history of the community, so I would also suggest that. One thing I don't do enough is I can't remember an applicant coming to a public hearing with a rezoning that is this size and not having anyone really come to speak out against it, but rather people coming to speak for it. Although we did get some emails that it was very respectful and thoughtful, and so I'd really like to commend the applicant and the whole team for doing the due diligence, spending a lot of time with the neighbors, coming to us. I know sometimes people like to lowball us and say, oh, I'm going to use this as something that I can negotiate with, but what you came with is really great. And my questions are always nitpicky, but my nitpickiness is very small. So I'm really quite impressed with what was brought before us, and I'd like to thank staff and the applicant for making this a relatively easy discussion.
Agree.
I agree as well. Sorry, Councilmember Bonsall, I was just going to piggyback on that real quick to also say that the written comments we received were not, as they historically are, an expression of opinion, but more this time a series of questions and clarifications that I believe staff and the applicant could probably answer pretty readily. Rachel, if we could just make sure that we get answers for the written comments, that was really more the nature of the responses we got this time. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. I actually used to live on the intersection of William Henry and April Bloom. The corner house was mine. We rented there when we moved to North Carolina. So most of the people who have written this, I believe I could recognize their names. They're all good friends. So I feel compelled to request this, and I don't think this is the right time to probably mention, or maybe it is, I don't know. Sometimes the timings could be off depending on which phase of the project you're on. But the construction traffic, some of these neighborhoods around this site, they're very mature and people have been living there for many, many years now. How will the construction traffic flow through these? Like, will this be taken care of by phases, or how is this going to be planned for? Jason?
It's a great question. It's actually a question that came up at our neighborhood meeting. We've already started discussions related to.
I promise I did not read that.
That's quite all right. So Saunders Grove Lane is where we're going to start, where the client is going to start construction. That's the front entrance to the site. That's the main entrance to the site. We've actually started conversations about the possibility of, like we have done in other cases, putting up barriers to those connections that are proposed into the neighborhoods that would come down at a certain, either CO or building permit or plat, just to ensure that folks have predictability and know that the construction traffic won't be going through their neighborhood.
I think that would be fabulous. And is this in phases? Like, I'm pretty sure this is not going all together, so.
It's right now, the anticipation is it could be one single 54 lot phase or 52 lot phase, just because it's not a ton of development. And there's one way in and one way out. But right now, just don't know.
Do we have a commitment for putting the barriers, or is that a standard practice that you guys follow?
We don't have a commitment right now. Again, we got that question at our meeting earlier this month, and we have already begun conversations internally about the possibility of adding a condition to provide that comfort to the neighbors to know that the construction traffic won't be going through their neighborhood.
That would make me feel happy. Thank you so much. I mean, I don't want to get calls from my friends yelling at me.
Understood.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions or comments?
I just had one other comment, how much I believe going a little bananas with street side trails and greenways and such is a really great approach to rezoning applications. That's also a first, and I quite literally pictured that. I'm like, okay, so, and now that neighborhood can go over here, and it's all, I just thought that was just a really keen way to approach it. So I figured I'd say it. I'd like to see more of this level of mobility within the development. It's pretty neat.
Thank you. So as a reminder, this will go to the Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation. In the meantime, if you have questions, Rachel Smith will have the latest information, and she can answer those questions for you, or you can contact any of us at any time. So thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to our first discussion item, bid award for Go Cary Bus Operations and Maintenance Facility. Transit Director Kelly Blasey will present the item, and council may take action. Ms. Blasey.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have reached an exciting milestone for the Go Cary Bus Operations and Maintenance Facility, a project that started 15 years ago. This is when we were still a small transit system known as C-Tran. So tonight I will walk you through all that we have accomplished in that time, leading us to where we will discuss the recent bid for construction. As a reminder, transit service in Cary is managed by town staff and operated by a service contractor, which is currently MV Transportation. Since beginning transit service in 2001, the contractor has operated from a leased facility at the corner of Chapel Hill Road and Trinity Road. The building sits on just over 3 acres and originally served as a heavy equipment maintenance facility. In 2011, Cary conducted a feasibility study to determine whether we should continue to operate from the site leased by the contractor or build a town-owned transit facility. The current lease must be renewed every 4 years, and there is not another existing facility from which Go Cary could operate. A town-owned facility provides certainty that Cary can continue to operate and grow transit service to meet the needs of our community. The feasibility study reviewed administrative, operational, maintenance, and vehicle needs for the next 30 years. The resulting report recommended that the town purchase a 9-acre site from Go Triangle, located on Tower View Court behind the James Jackson Public Works facility. Cary applied for federal grant funding to help fund the purchase of that property. In 2016, Cary was awarded just over $1 million from the Federal Transit Administration to support this land acquisition. In September of that year, Council approved a purchase agreement with Go Triangle to acquire the property on Tower View Court using a combination of federal and local funding. That purchase was final in June of 2017. The 2018 Wake Transit Plan included a facility condition and capacity assessment for transit facilities in Wake County. The assessment determined that the current operations facility cannot support the growth planned for transit service in Cary. Parking is limited, circulation through the site is tight, and the building cannot accommodate operational needs. These findings led to dedicated Wake Transit funding to support the design and construction of a new bus operations and maintenance facility. In 2019, we began the design process with the development of space and programming criteria, along with identifying the technical site and building requirements. This work included staff from multiple town departments, as well as regional transit partners. During this time, Cary applied for additional federal funding to support construction and was awarded $14.7 million. During design, we identified an opportunity to adjust the property line between our site and the adjacent site owned by Duke Energy. This property exchange was approved by Council in May of 2025 and completed in April of this year. The final project design was also approved by Cary's Development Review Committee in 2025. It gives Duke dedicated driveway access to their substation and gives Cary more space for parking and direct access to the Public Works site. So this leads us to the final design of the 85,000 square foot project shown here. The facility incorporates administrative space for Cary staff, operations and maintenance space for Go Cary's service provider, and a separate fuel and wash station. The attached parking deck provides parking for employees on the top level and covered space for transit vehicles below. The site can accommodate future fleet expansion and incorporates sustainability features such as solar panels and a rain harvesting system. And as you can imagine, we are all very excited to begin construction. This project is primarily supported by the Wake Transit Plan with over $76 million in funding, including contingency, and close to $16 million in federal grants. Of the $92 million allocated in total funding, the town of Cary provided $251,000 as a local match for the land acquisition in 2017. We issued an invitation to bid this spring and received 3 bids, all coming in below the engineer's estimate of probable cost prepared at the 100% design stage. Based on our review, Swinnerton Builders submitted the lowest responsive and responsible bid. Once again, we will revisit all that we have accomplished beginning in 2011 and bringing you to tonight's meeting. Once Council approves the award for construction, we will begin work this summer with an anticipated opening date in late 2028. With that, I bring you staff's recommendation to award the bid for the construction of the Go Cary bus operations and maintenance facility to Swinnerton Builders for a total bid amount of $49,387,755. Happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Blasey, this is good news for me. Great job.
Thank you.
$50 million and our taxpayers pay $250,000, and it's going to benefit them greatly. So what a deal. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Council members, questions, comments?
No, I was really impressed in the report about all the, I mean, you mentioned a couple of the sustainability items, but things like the permeable pavers, you mentioned the rain harvesting, the solar, the EV charging stations. I really thought that the staff report was really complete and showed our total commitment to sustainability. So really well done. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Are we ready?
I just want to share my perception of you, Ms. Pleasy, since I started doing this 4 years ago now. Your competence, your ability to make me understand these things, with which I have absolutely no understanding or experience when I started here, has been absolutely remarkable. You are a real asset to the community. So I just want to say thank you for always doing such a great job.
Thank you so much.
Are we ready for?
I want to just, sorry, one last comment, sorry. I also want to mention and compliment the staff members who have been part of this team of building this entire, the vision. There was so much work that went into this, like acquiring and like talking to homeowners and getting the sites and negotiating with each and every homeowner and coming up with a plan on this. I think this was a tremendous effort, and all of you together did it. And this is amazing. I think it's going to add so much value to town of Cary and the residents. So this shows how amazing our team is and how great your vision is about the future of town of Cary. So thank you for all the work that you guys have done.
Yeah, I would love also to share some comments. And Kelly, I need your conference with, just like Councilmember Kong Johnson, I need that too. And especially I heard that the land was purchased in 2017, and it's such a great deal. And before the pandemic, we only pay $250,000, and imagine now it will at least double or triple the price. And yeah, so I was so amazed by the decision by the council in 2017. I wasn't here. I know a lot of council members were not here. And also the Go Triangle's mobility hub is also going to start design. And also we see the Durham is also in construction, and the Raleigh station already done. And we are the only town will provide the transition hub like this. I'm very excited for this. Just like Mayor.
Basically a one-liner, just a lot of amazing things, as Councilmember Wong said, about going on with transit across the Triangle area. And there's nothing I don't love about this. And thanks to staff for so many years of your dedication and all that you've put into this.
Thank you.
Were you ready for a motion?
Did you want to do one?
Sure. I was sitting here doing the calculus thinking, all of my colleagues said such wonderful things. Do I keep the meeting moving, or do I let you know that I shared their appreciation? So I'll just keep it brief and say ditto. And I will make a motion. Do I have a motion language for this one?
On the screen.
On the screen, I do. I make a motion that we award the bid for the construction of the Go Cary bus operations and maintenance facility to Swinterton Builders for a total bid amount of $49,387,755.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the intimidating.
We now move to our second discussion item, fiscal year 2027 recommended budget. Interim Town Manager Russ Overton will introduce the item, and Assistant Town Manager Stacy Teachy will present as well. Council may take action. Council better take action. We're running out of time.
Correct. Mayor, council, and members of our community, tonight concludes many months of work of a very thoughtful and collaborative budget process and begins the work ahead, moving this organization forward. And I want to thank the council for all the work that you've put into reviewing and discussing this year's budget. I'm proud of our collaboration as well as the time and dedication committed to this effort. This budget reflects council's priorities, community feedback, and the work of our boards, commissions, and staff. It recognizes both opportunities and responsibilities that come with being one of the nation's most desirable communities and delivering the service that it takes to run and maintain the services to our 192,000 residents that call Cary home. Our budget is fundamentally about ensuring that when residents experience emergencies, police and fire are there to respond. It's about maintaining parks, greenways, and having programs that people enjoy and rely on for quality of life. It's about keeping water and wastewater systems flowing reliably ensuring solid waste and recycling are collected consistently, and maintaining streets, sidewalks, and public buildings so they are safe, functional, and clean. It also includes planning for the managed growth through zoning, development oversight, and issuing permits, as well as providing transit services and traffic management that keep our community moving. Equally important are the internal services department that support all of this work behind the scenes, enabling staff across the organization to deliver the everyday services residents expect. Some of this work is highly visible to residents every day. Other parts are completely invisible, yet just as essential to making our community function. We are often judged more directly on the services people can see and experience, but our success depends just as much on the unseen systems and people working consistently behind the scenes. One program I wish every resident could experience is Cary 101, where participants gain a firsthand understanding of what makes Cary run. This year, we have likely received more public input on the budget than ever before. And if I had one desire going forward, it would be that more residents would have the opportunity to see and understand the full scope of what it takes to deliver services they rely on every day, and how adopting the budget tonight is fundamental to ensuring the necessary resources are considered to make it all happen in the upcoming year, which really is what tonight's adoption is all about. This budget continues Cary's strong financial stewardship and strengthens a renewed commitment to transparency, accountability, and public trust. It invests in our employees and moves us forward to a more disciplined, multi-year approach, budget planning, which is increasingly important as local governments across North Carolina face uncertainty around the future revenue authority and property tax policy. While residents strongly value high-quality services, they're also increasingly sensitive to property taxes. Our responsibility is to bridge that gap through clear decision-making, planning, and showing the value of community investment while delivering services that a community has come to expect and keeps Cary Cary. This budget includes a significant commitment to public safety, ensuring they have the staff and resources they need as Cary continues to grow and support the needs of the community. It also continues steady investment in infrastructure, parks, transportation, utilities, and other community assets that define our quality of life. Another highlight of this budget is the addition of 2 positions within our finance department to enhance internal capacity, improve oversight, and strengthen financial controls. In the coming year, we will also continue refining policies and procedures to ensure consistency, transparency, and accountability in how public funds are managed. I want to again thank the mayor and council for your leadership, our boards and commissions, our residents for their input, and to all the staff across the organization that makes the town run. And a special thank goes out to Stacy Teachy and the budget team for their work in bringing this all together in a time of transition. As interim manager, I appreciate the trust you've placed in me and in the entire organization. I certainly couldn't do this without everyone on the entire team of Cary. Working together with council staff and the community, I'm confident we will continue Cary's tradition of excellence. On behalf of the organization, I respectfully recommend adoption of the FY 2027 budget, and I'll turn it over to Stacy for a brief presentation before your vote. And again, thank you all.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Overton. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to join you this evening for the adoption of the fiscal year 2027 budget. Council has been making steady progress on the budget since January. We are now at June 25th, which is the date for final discussion and adoption of the fiscal year 2027 budget. There are 3 key takeaways associated with this budget. The first is that it's rooted in council and public priority input. It represents the single largest investment in public safety in Cary's history. And lastly, it's the first step in instituting a predictable, transparent approach to funding Cary services. The fiscal year 2027 recommended budget funds 55 new positions, including police officers, emergency communications officers, firefighters, internal audit and compliance positions, a budget director, and a communications director, to name a few. It also reinforces Cary's commitment to employees by focusing on compensation through a classification and pay study and restoration of merit increase funding at 5%. This budget also brings funding to new capital investments while maintaining the infrastructure that's already in place. 54% of the capital budget supports maintenance projects like street resurfacing, facility maintenance, and water and sewer line rehabilitation. Council has worked diligently during this budget process, discussing priorities, asking questions, and considering reductions. As a result of this work, staff presented an option to you at the June 11th work session that reduces the recommended property tax rate by 1 penny. That option is reflected in the changes list documentation before you this evening and is noted on this slide. As far as other rates, the solid waste and recycling fee is recommended to increase $2 per month, or approximately 8% to $28, and utility rates are recommended to increase 4% overall, with the increase applied to the base rate. This results in a $3.08 per month increase for the typical household. The fiscal year 2027 recommended column on this chart presents the budget as it was published on May 14th, 2026. The fiscal year 2027 adopted column notes the results of changes made since the recommended budget was published. Starting with the operating budget section, we see that the changes council made during the June 11th work session resulted in a $159,226 decrease in the general fund. No changes were made to the utility fund. The other funds category, which includes a number of smaller Cary funds, as well as the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organizations, or CAMPO fund, increased by almost $6.5 million. Cary serves as the lead planning agency for the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. While their funds are incorporated into Cary's budget, they are pass-through funds that do not belong to Cary. Staff realized after the fiscal year 2027 recommended budget had been issued that a portion of CAMPO's 2027 funding was not included. This adjustment corrects that oversight. In the capital improvements budget section, we see that the utility capital budget remains unchanged and that the general capital budget has decreased by $242,872. In the total budget line, you see that the fiscal year 2027 adopted budget total is $579.6 million, or $6 million more than the recommended budget. Again, this increase is solely driven by including the full CAMPO budget, which represents pass-through dollars. Staff recommends that council adopt the fiscal year 2027 recommended budget along with the proposed changes detailed in the changes list document before you this evening. The 3 actions noted on this slide are required to both adopt the budget and ensure that the counties are prepared to collect taxes on Cary's behalf. This concludes my presentation, and I am available for any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Ms. Teegee. I have comments to make, and I would invite all of my colleagues to make comments as well. I'd first like to start by thanking the staff. Words can't say enough. That's just such an understatement of how long you've worked, how hard you've worked, long hours to complete this budget. It was a significant undertaking, particularly this year, when we are continually addressing the changes that emerged following the former town manager's breach of trust. And I mention the breach of trust because that's the context in which this budget was developed. The breach led to inaccurate information being provided to council over several years, leaving critical needs unaddressed, particularly with our police and fire departments. For 18 consecutive years, Cary has maintained the lowest tax rate in Wake County. And based on what I know today, I believe the low tax rate of recent years was achieved, at least in part, through incomplete and misleading assessment of town's long-term needs. The council was repeatedly presented with information suggesting a tax increase was unnecessary, when in reality, additional revenue was needed simply to sustain service levels. The result has been a significant backlog of public safety and infrastructure needs. Cary has not added a new police officer in 10 years, and I can't imagine how much we've grown in that time. The police department is currently understaffed by 89 officers. At the same time, our growing community requires 2 additional fire stations to meet increasing service demand. We've reached a point where public safety levels could be affected if these staffing and infrastructure's needs are not addressed. In fact, some areas of Cary are already experiencing longer average police and fire response times. This budget is designed to confront those realities, address critical needs, and begin, I say begin, closing the gaps created by years of underinvestment and misleading forecasting. Almost all of the egregious spending undertaken by the former manager in recent years has occurred without council knowledge. Fortunately, the overall impact on the budget was limited. The council and the interim manager are already implementing changes to strengthen oversight, prevent similar extravagant spending in the future. We also anticipate recommendations from both the internal investigation and the state auditor, which will lead to additional improvements in our financial controls and governance practices. It's important to understand that 60% of our revenue comes from property taxes, 21% from sales taxes, 81%. And those revenue sources have remained relatively flat since the population has grown by less than 1% for the last 2 years, and sales taxes have been relatively flat. At the same time, 80% of our expenditures is public safety and public works, where costs continue to rise with double-digit inflation in many areas of town services. Maintaining the high level of service that Cary residents have come to expect over the years will require significant investment over the next 3 years. Now more than ever, economic development must be a priority. With the community largely built out and our population growth slowing, economic development is one of the few sustainable ways to expand the tax base and reduce pressure on future property tax increases. Unfortunately, this budget reduces funding for the second consecutive year to the organization that leads much of our economic development efforts, the Cary Chamber of Commerce. In my view, that is a big mistake. It sends the wrong message to our business community, who we will need in the future. Strategic investments that deliver measurable economic returns must remain a priority. Cary has world-class facilities: Wake Med Soccer Park, USA Baseball, Cary Tennis Park, which attract major events, drawing visitors from around the region, around the nation, and around the world. And they generate millions of dollars in economic impact for our community. Choosing to not invest in these assets that consistently produce these returns would be short-sighted. Economic development is not optional. It is essential to maintaining both our quality of life and our competitive tax rate in the years ahead. These investments help sustain our high quality of life, support local businesses, and maintain a competitive tax rate for our residents. As we plan for the years ahead, investments that create long-term economic value should be a core component of every budget. The good news is this budget is moving us in the right direction. At the annual council retreat in February, priorities were identified by council in this order: public safety, capital investment, high-performing staff, affordability, maintaining service levels and facilities. This budget begins to address the significant backlog created by the shortage of police officers that I mentioned and the lack of fire stations that I mentioned that have equipment and personnel that are going to be needed. It is important to emphasize that this budget represents the first phase of a 3-year public safety recovery plan. As a result, future budgets will also need to prioritize public safety investments to fully address these critical needs. The budget makes meaningful progress in addressing the town's capital needs, with 54% of the budget dedicated to maintaining parks, roads, and other community infrastructure. Key investments include Carpenter Fire Station Road, the Multimodal Center, and the design of 2 new fire stations. However, the budget does not keep pace with the growing needs of our roads and sidewalks. This budget includes $3 million that is allocated for sidewalk improvements, but there was an additional $3.7 million that was needed. So we're losing ground. And we continue to fall behind. Similarly, road maintenance fell short of about $5 million, further increasing the maintenance backlog. Addressing these shortfalls will require a significant investment in future budgets. Delaying road maintenance only increases long-term costs as road conditions continue to deteriorate over time and inflation continues to go up. Even a 1-year delay can result in substantially higher repair and reconstruction expenses, making timely investments both fiscally responsible and cost-effective. This budget does a good job investing in our exceptional staff who had suffered under the decisions made by the previous manager. It's important to note that out of the 55 additional staff members in this year's budget, that we will get a budget director and 2 internal auditors, which are desperately needed. Affordability was identified as a top priority by this council at the retreat, so much so that a penny on our tax rate is dedicated to affordable housing after advocacy from a special interest group. This resulted in the council adding an additional $700,000 to the manager's recommended budget. Unfortunately, that additional funding was directed at organizations that had already been funded and included in the budget, and it didn't create any more additional housing units. In fact, one of those organizations still lacks the sufficient funding to move its project forward. I'm concerned about the optics of this. Making spending decisions in response to a request from a special interest group, particularly one that includes individuals who worked on my campaign and other campaigns and go to my church. It doesn't sound like sound policy. Simply throwing money at a problem does not guarantee meaningful results. Many of our residents are complaining about affordability in general, not just affordable housing. And affordable housing initiatives are primarily intended to benefit future residents, while the current residents bear the cost through higher taxes or cuts in services. As a result, this is actually adding more financial burden to the people that are expressing concerns about affordability. I think this is a discussion that the council needs to have, and I think we can do better than what we're doing today. So unless our people that are complaining about affordability want to move in cheaper apartments, we're not helping them. So we need to find a better way to help our residents. At the core, tax rates reflect our values and our priorities as a community. If we want to remain a premier place to live, work, play, raise a family, run a business, we must continue to evolve, adapt, and invest in our future. This budget establishes a tax rate of 36.75 cents, and while it does not achieve all the goals I would like to see accomplished, it represents meaningful progress in several important areas and positions in our community to continue moving forward. Now, I know I've expressed several concerns about this budget, and I know it may be difficult to hear, and I know it may have made some people angry. That was not my intent. My responsibility is to be candid about both the strengths and the shortcomings of the decision before us. So, I've spoken a long time, but on balance, this is a good budget. Thank you for this budget. I think it moves Cary in the right direction, and for that, I wholeheartedly support the budget. Now, I'll open it up to my colleagues and see if they can speak longer than that.
We never start at the end, so does anyone want to start?
Everybody is looking at me.
Oh.
Oh, they are?
habit.
We just naturally look that way.
Not Russ, right?
We were looking at Russ.
I prepared something to
Okay.
say. I think it's much shorter than Mayor.
Good. We don't need another one.
This is my 7th month to be on the council, but I feel it's been 7 years. And I just shared with Mayor Pro Tem Laurie Bush today that we new council members are fast learners, so we learn everything in a short time. About this year's budget, I was asking myself one question: what are the essential services our residents count on every day? I think it's sometimes somebody needs 911 or 311, and they could get the police officers, firefighters to arrive quickly. And when there's a winter storm hits, they are expecting the road to be safe. And I still remember earlier this year, 3 a.m. in the morning, and I already see our public works already working on the road. That is how excellent our Cary public works are. And when there are heavy rains, the stormwater system is really important because we are trying to invest more, but it depends on our budget. And we also need to find more funding for the infrastructures. I have heard several residents reach out to me, express their concerns about the rising cost of living. They may be unemployed, or they have seniors that lived on a fixed income. And I know seniors, they're different. Some have better 401k, but some are just living on the fixed income. It's really hard for them. But I also heard from other residents that they really appreciate the parks and recs in Cary because they really enjoy the sports and recreation in Cary. And they request more sports venue. I was like, that's very expensive. We couldn't afford it. The more important is the essential services that we need, the public works and public safety. So I was debating myself, but also I'm a small business owner, and my first instinct is always to ask, can we find more revenue? Can we operate more efficient? Can we reduce costs before asking our people to pay more? And I know Mayor Pro Tem Bush is another champion on this. Always, her list is the longest one. Every work session I see, she asks a lot of questions about how can we get more revenue resources. But this year is really a tight timing, and that's another question to our interim town manager, Russ, because your job is much tougher. I think it's the toughest one in Cary's history, because we need to find more revenue resources, and we'll keep asking starting July 1st. Because this budget is not the end, it's just another starting of the next year's budget. And I really appreciate our staff to work on this budget in such a short time. And we debate so much, we have emails, and even our council members are trying to get more for different districts, or we all speaking for all our people in Cary. But I think not one council member or a mayor or anyone in Cary can make Cary such a great place to live. It's because of the long time history. Everyone has contributed to Cary. But this budget maybe hurt someone financially. But I feel the public safety, we cannot wait until there is a, we don't want to be on the news anymore. Like, we want to have better news, but not something related to public safety. And I really appreciate Chief Salt and Chief Cooper has been working so hard, and they haven't complained to us at all. But I wish our staff, including our town manager's office, complain to us as our public speaks out, like our residents, to let us know the really pain, where is the really pain, where is the really issue, so we can work on it together and just invest early, and so it will benefit everyone. That's my first one.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for your candor. I think if we are doing our job as public servants and elected officials, we need to be able to communicate hard truths. And I was a candidate this time last year, and I shared similar hard truths with residents that I said I hoped I would earn their trust by sharing what I saw as difficult news, which is we are in a budget environment that is going to require additional property tax investments every year. But I pledged that we would make those property tax increases as incremental as possible, as reasonable as possible, but they were necessary because I also committed to preserving Cary's high-quality town services and keeping Cary special. And I think this budget threads that needle. Reasonable people are going to have disagreements, but I think where we landed through months and months of hard work with my colleagues here, but first and foremost with staff, at 2.75 cent increase, and our investments in public service, and while insufficient to maintain everything that needs to be maintained and everything new that we would love to see built, we're moving in the right direction, and so I'll be supporting the budget.
Others?
I have a couple of comments. So first, thank you to the mayor and to all the staff and colleagues, and especially to my colleagues. The work that went into this budget, I don't think in my time here that we've ever had this amount of robust discussion that wasn't just about the minutia associated with each individual item, but our values associated with those respective items. And also, given the shortages that we've had in the budget in the various departments, it really was a team effort across the entire organization. And I recognize how difficult this is, and the process has been, and I appreciate the level of collaboration that we've seen and the commitment, as well as the professionalism that it took to get us where we are. The budget is where we decide where your tax dollars are used. And as a council member, it is one of the most important decisions and one of the most important pieces of work that we do, because it directly impacts your safety, your quality of life, your streets, your parks, and our future, most importantly, as the mayor has said, our future as a town. And this was not an easy year for so many reasons. And we've been put in a very difficult position, learning how far behind we were with respect to public safety, and given where we are. I want residents to know that this council really dug in. I don't think that you would be surprised. Looking at our set of meetings, we looked at fund balance, we looked at new revenue ideas, we asked hard questions about current spending, future obligations, especially even looked at areas in employee health care where costs continue to grow if we don't address them now for the future. But at the end of the day, I believe that this budget does what we need it to do. As the mayor said, it first and foremost, and as Councilmember Huang said, it fully funds public safety, not all the way, but as many people as we can bring on in a single year. We never want to be in a position where someone calls for help and we say we couldn't get there fast enough because we didn't have enough people. That's a core responsibility, and it's something this budget honors. It also asks more of our partners. I understand, Mayor, that you're not happy with our asking the Chamber of Commerce, but we asked all of our partners to take an equal cut in what some of our funding is. And we asked them, and they stepped up to support us, to help us find efficiencies, just as we're doing those internally. We took steps for greater equity, where we're moving away from subsidizing EVs, so EV charging, and that's just one example of where we can be fair across the entire community and not subsidize or lose off potential revenue. We also made very difficult decisions to defer some capital projects. Those aren't decisions that we took lately, and I know Councilmember Richards is still pining for that Lewis Stevens sidewalk.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Bush. Shout out to Lewis Stevens.
That is one of the things that each one of us took a great big part of keeping the budget balanced and responsible. And I do want to be clear about one thing. I did want a lower tax rate. I think we all did. I can only speak for me. I still believe that an 8% increase is too high for many families, especially those already struggling. I know that comes on top of the increased inflation and a higher cost of living pressures that we're all feeling across the board, but at the same time, that increase is directly tied to the things that people told us they value, which is public safety staffing and maintaining our strong financial position and our AAA bond rating, keeping our affordable housing work moving forward rather than cutting back. And I do understand it's a bit of a paradox because I believe strongly in continuing to fund our affordable housing efforts. We absolutely are in the middle of a housing crisis, and our community has been clear, not just a single organization, but our community across the board, including reading our the work from our biennial survey. They want the town to stay engaged, but they want the town to stay engaged in multiple ways for affordable housing, not just building more apartments, but preserving the naturally occurring housing that we have, and by looking and partnering with places like Preserving Home that go in and rehabilitate homes so that people can stay and age in place. That's what some of this funding goes for. And until we can bring forward another housing bond and have other ways to fund these initiatives, I believe what we've included is responsible to continue that investment. So this is just a one-year budget, but I think one of the things that we've all talked about is also forward-looking. The policies put in place will give us more accurate and timely information. Thank you, Stacy and the budget team, throughout the year so we can track changes and keep a more responsive finger on the pulse of our finances. And I'm hopeful that as we wrap up this fiscal year, and I'll put in one more plug for it, that we'll have more breathing room, that when sales tax comes in higher than expected, when those we beat the projected sales and property taxes, and that money that we put in that fund balance will go back into the basics that people notice, like fixing the streets, like filling in our sidewalk gaps, like building out our greenways, because that way we can use fund balance to improve each of our daily lives without coming back and asking folks for more. So tonight, my responsibility is to vote on the budget in front of us, and as you so eloquently said, it's not perfect, but a lot of thoughtful work and some truly difficult trade-offs happen. But I think it's absolutely clear that our focus is what matters most, and what matters most is keeping Cary. And for that reason, I plan to support it. Can I go next?
Sure.
So I think you probably have already heard 50% of us and have heard how different we are, yet how similar our thought processes that we want to do what is best for Cary. And And the decision-making is really centered around in the best interest of the residents and people. That is extremely important thing to note. And by the way, I have not prepared anything. I scribbled something and I cannot even read my own writing now. But I am excited and nervous today. I'm excited because I love what we have in the project, in the budget. It was a very well thought of budget. Public safety is at the heart of this, but then we also have some very good projects that are going to help us move Cary forward. But I'm also nervous because I know that this is going to create a burden for some families. And it is going to be a very difficult, it weighs very heavily on me. I just want to put it out there. I appreciate everyone that provided their input or shared your struggles with us. Your voice matters. I agree that we could have done better if we had time, if we had a little bit more resources, but we had competing priorities. We had a big responsibility to support all the audits and bring the stability to the organization. I personally requested, and I know that all my colleagues probably they're going to speak for themselves, but I'm kind of speaking just for myself. I requested our town manager to find 2 pennies in the proposed budget, and we were able to find 1 penny. And we were working towards finding the other one. But obviously, like I said, the timing, I wish we had more. But here we are today, and this is what we have. I'm not being pessimistic, I'm just kind of being optimistic here because now we have like good things coming as part of this budget where we will be able to support our public safety, but we also have to recognize that there are people who are going to have hardships because of this tax increase. Everybody said, this is not the finish line. This is not the end of it. We will continue to take your input. We will continue to work towards finding efficiencies, cutting cost, building revenue sources, and I think that's going to help us kind of stay at par next year. I'm hoping, I'm optimistic. I'm a little torn in my heart. I'm 50-50, but I really, I will support this budget because I really want the staff to know that I appreciate all their efforts. This has been tremendous work. It has been the kind of pressure that you guys have went through during this past few months. It's unreal. And I think each one of us have seen you go through that phase, and we appreciate everything that you do. So I will support this, but I hope that next year we can think about finding more cost savings and, find more efficiencies in our budget.
I've been thinking about all day what I would say, and I had it all planned out, and then I wrote like 2 more pages of things while I was listening to everybody. So who knows what will come out at the end. I usually don't follow my notes when I get home and watch it again. I'm like, wow, that's what I said. So like the previous budgets that we've passed in I guess it's my 3rd time passing a budget, they've always been hard. I think what makes the whole process and everything different for me this year was I still flagged up my very huge binder like I had in previous years, but the binder was bigger. There was a lot more information in the binder, which prompted a lot more good questions that I knew to ask. And also, as the mayor alluded to, there were a lot of other reasons where we knew to ask specific questions about some things that we didn't know before. And so one of the things I remember sitting with staff and saying is, tell me more about this. Can we consider pausing this and this until we can learn more about specifically how it's helping meet the community needs? Not necessarily that it's bad or wrong, or we shouldn't be funding it. There was a time where we seemed to have more cash flowing in with the influx of people coming in. So, perhaps a lot of those things made more sense then, but right now, as I'm understanding more in my third cycle, and I just want more information before I believe that's the thing that we should absolutely fund. And that was the part of the process where we already had the recommended budget of 3.75 cent increase, and we were trying to see what we could bring down. And I remember sitting in a 3x4 meeting with Councilmember Cone Johnson for hours with staff and we were just saying, tell me more about this, tell me more about this. We both came with our notes, tell me more about this. And so we did that, and others gave input as well. And we were able, with including using the fund balance, some fund balance, we were able to get it down 1 penny. And I know I've said this so many times in the past years, but my district, District B, is more than $40,000 a year median household income less than Cary as a whole. And that varies by district, but my district is the lowest of the incomes. That doesn't seem odd. It's the oldest part of Cary, along with, some of the parts of South Cary. But, that's the aging infrastructure. A lot of the needs we have are there as well. But very established neighborhoods, people who grew up here, raised their family here, have retired here, are on fixed incomes, as Councilmember Wong was talking about. And so I hear from people that a tax increase, it will be very difficult for them to be able to pay their taxes. They're afraid of being priced out of their homes. I hear equally, if not more, from people, the tax rate is so low here. I'm so excited about all the amenities. Why won't you give us more? So this budget is another one of those times where it feels like no one is happy again. For this group of people, the tax rate is too high. For this group of people, they didn't get what they wanted, the additional things that they wanted, and we're just trying to maintain roads and connect sidewalks and invest in public safety. So if you'll humor me for a minute, I will tell a story. It came up this week, and I emailed it to the mayor. Someone emailed us, and if you want to tell who the someone is, you can, but I don't know them personally. But someone emailed us and said they had a medical emergency, and they were so grateful by how quickly the fire department responded, so much faster than EMS was able to get there, and they were able to get the help that they needed, life-saving, things that they needed. And within 5 minutes, the fire department was there, and they were taken care of. And it reminded me of a story that I told. I know I told the mayor back in February 2025, last year, at our staff council retreat. I can't remember if I said it into a microphone or if I just had a couple of conversations.
You told us all.
Okay, did I tell everybody? But so I had a family member who lives in another county. It's a more rural area. So I expect Cary's response time to be faster than some of the more rural areas. But the fact of the matter is that it is truly life or death. And when you said earlier that 80% of our budget is public works and public safety, I said, I think I might I wrote it on here. I was like, I think I might tell the story. But she had a life-threatening emergency, and it was during the time where it had been snowing. The roads in her area had not been plowed. Again, not in Wake County. And so even in good weather, roads being fine, I don't believe emergency medical services could have gotten to her in 5 minutes. But it did not turn out well for her. And so just something for us to think about, that we cannot take these things for granted, that it truly is life and death
on so many occasions, and I know there's so many more stories, and people don't always tell us the stories, but every day, our emergency medical people and our front line is our fire department. They respond, and it truly makes a huge difference, and I shouldn't get better care and response times where I live because I'm close to everything than people in more rural areas and in places where we haven't gotten our fire departments yet. And it was more than a year ago. I remember asking numerous times, something doesn't seem right. Are you sure we don't? And this was to our former town manager. Are you sure we don't need to invest more in public safety? Nope, we're good. Obviously, more conversation than that. And then you keep bragging about us having the lowest staff to resident ratio. It actually dropped below 7 staff members per 1,000 residents. That can't be sustainable. And so the things that I look back at and in the back of my mind were red flags. And I just didn't know additional questions to ask or additional ways to ask the questions. The answer was I should have come to staff. And hindsight's 2020, we're moving past that. We know what to do now. We've learned so much in the last 6, 7, 8 months or so. So we're moving beyond that. We're making the investments that we should have made at least last year when we were asking the questions. I wasn't the only one who asked the questions. And probably, obviously should have before then, because as you said, it had been 10 years since we made, and we've seen those graphics. So that is the number one priority. That wasn't something I ran on. I didn't go door to door and say, we have to invest in public safety, because Cary's safe. And those kinds of things, people weren't saying to me, well, what about the fire department, and what about the police officers? And the needs are very different in every district, every neighborhood. So keeping that in mind, that when I vote, I think about what the residents of District B need, but I have to think about what the residents of District D need and others as well. And so that, has been heavy on my mind. And unfortunately, some people may think that we're not listening to what they're saying. We're telling you this is what we need, and you're not giving it to us. And that it feels heartbreaking and a reality for many of our votes, most of our votes. Most people are not happy. It's just there's some kind of compromise. This one hits a little bit harder because it is somebody is coming from somebody's pocket, whether or not they can pay their bills. So, of course, all of my rambling is partially to say that we are listening, and we truly wish there was a way to give everyone what they asked for. And as we're prioritizing more and more, we're learning, I believe, that we have to really prioritize those non-negotiables, the needs, before we prioritize the nice-to-haves. And I also recognize that there's a lot of things that are more than nice to have that we need that we don't have in this budget. And it's been a really hard compromise, and I so appreciate the staff that have spent more hours than we even have any idea, but I know the hours that you've spent literally with us, and it's way more than what I've seen in my previous years. I have another page, I'm so sorry.
Just don't eclipse my time. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna just ramble until I'm sure that I'm past how long you talked. I did want to address one thing and just say, just some thoughts that I wrote down while others were talking, that my votes will never be based on special interest, catering to special interest, that my votes will stay in line with the values that I ran on, the things that I said were important to me. If that changes, I will publicly be happy to say so. And then
And it also, what I ran on started with my ideas, and then I validated that by knocking so many doors and hearing from the same people in my district. My district overwhelmingly is supportive of investing in affordable housing. Even people that I know, it's very difficult for them to make their payments, very much support affordable housing. That's not going to be true for everyone. But I'm not sure. I think it's important to think about that when people speak individually, we have one voice and it's a small voice. But when we work collectively, and many people are saying the same thing in a way that elevates an idea and brings other people in, that is so much more powerful than a single voice. So I'm not sure if that's where an idea of a special interest group that was alluded to earlier, I think it may be semantics, how we're looking at things differently. I don't recall having a conversation with anyone on council about a special interest group. I don't recall hearing that prior to today. So I just wanted to say, as far as affordable housing, I think many voices coming together collectively are very powerful and are saying the same message that has been a value of many of us for a long time. And anything additional to that, I'd love to know more about because I'm unaware of it. I think I probably said enough, and others probably said some similar things, but I don't know when a budget's ever not tough. Maybe in years past. I haven't seen that, but I so very much appreciate all the work that my colleagues have put in and the staff as well, and all the feedback that we got. The year that we raised taxes so significantly, my first year, I only got one email. It was super surprising, so I'm very happy that we did get so much input, even though they weren't saying the same thing.
Bring us home.
You think you can talk 15 minutes?
I'm going to be bright but brief. That's one of the things we talk about at work because I tend to ramble. The good thing is, one of the reasons why I wanted to wait till last is because I think my colleagues here have done a very good job of outlining a lot of the things that were examined, where we trimmed, where we were all in agreement as far as our priorities, and the really great job that staff has done. So I don't feel there's 15 or 20 hours of us talking about the budget available for anybody online who'd like to see how we got to the budget where it is. I am very confident this budget is an excellent budget. This is not a budget that I believe is, we compromised very significantly. That's why nobody's terribly happy, right? That's a significant amount of compromise that went into this budget. It's excellent, it's examined, it's well thought through, and what this is a people budget. This is a budget that has the humanity in it that our last probably quite a few years was probably needing a lot more of. One of the things that I see pretty frequently is people saying, just be leaner or get more done, but the honest truth is what we are doing right now is bordering on abusing our employees. So we cannot continue to do that. We cannot continue to expect everybody to make our lives pleasant and good and livable and show up when we call 911 on our very worst day. But I'm sorry you're working more overtime than you want, or I'm sorry you're working 60-hour work weeks. You're a public servant. You're a kind person. That's what kind people do when they work in the public sector. That's unacceptable. And what this budget is an investment in people. And I think it's a really important one that is, if we put it off any longer, what our entire community would have experienced is a disruption to their services, a disruption to their quality of life, and this is an investment in the quality of life of the staff, of our public safety. Not just public safety, though. It's really across the board. All of our teams are very lean. And they affect the quality of life for everybody here in Cary very significantly. It happens to be public safety where we're making a very significant investment in this budget because that really is where it's life or death. And we also have some morale problems we really need to address. So I'm really proud of this budget. I'm supporting it without reservation. This is appropriate. I think, and I agree a lot of times with what Harold, the way you summarize what happens when we kick the financial can down the road. If we don't invest now, if we don't invest thoroughly in maintaining what we have, it will cost us more. It is no different than not cleaning your gutters, because you're eventually going to have to replace your roof because you didn't spend a little bit up front. And that's one of the things that I said when I was running for re-election. I shouldn't have won. I ran on a platform of re-elect me, and I'm going to increase your taxes, and here's why. But it was honest, because we really do need more investment in the coming years. I'm not talking about raising taxes 20% year over year. I'm talking about modest, incremental tax rate smoothing. We keep talking about it. We need to invest in these things. We need to invest in our people, and then we need to invest in our stuff. And I think it's going to be really critical moving forward. So I'm very proud of this budget, and I have no reservations in supporting it. I believe that we did the due diligence and the hard work, and we're correcting for some of the problems that needed a little bit of attention from before, and I think this is an excellent solution to a host of problems.
Well said. Thank you, all of my colleagues. Well said, all of you. So I think now's the time for a motion.
I'm glad to do it. I move that we adopt the fiscal year 2027 recommended budget with the proposed changes, and I move that we adopt the attached resolutions authorizing Wake, Chatham, and Durham counties to bill and collect the town of Cary's real property taxes in fiscal year 2027, and that we adopt the resolution authorizing the interim town manager to execute the interlocal agreement for the collection of taxes between Chatham County and the town of Cary.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Further discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And again, thanks to each and every one of you.
Yeah.
It's just incredible what you did. Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
Okay, need to go into closed session. I would entertain a motion.
Pursuant to GS 143-318, 11A 1 and 3, I move that we hold a closed session to consult with attorneys employed by and or retained by the town in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorneys and the town, to prevent the disclosure of information that's made privileged or confidential pursuant to the laws of the state or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes, or is privileged and confidential pursuant to GS 147-64-6, and to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of one or more public officers or employees.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we will go into closed session behind us.
Closed.
We'll reconvene our meeting. If we have no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a unanimous meeting adjourned.